Anita, I'm so delighted to be doing this with you, especially with such a special book. I read The Right Sort of Girl last year, before it came out, because that's the benefit of having friends like Anita. So I read the book before, and it blew my mind. It is such a special book. You have managed to do so much taboo busting with this book. And I know that all of my cousins and me, we kind of still sit and we like recall parts of the book and talk about it because you started so many conversations.
Yeah, and I hoped that's what would happen. And I guess it's a year since it came out. It came out last July. And so now I've got the benefit of knowing which way it went. I thought the day before it was due to publish, I actually phoned somebody and said, how can I destroy all evidence of this book and make sure it never comes out? Because I'd poured so much of my life, which had previously been just my life and no one else knew about it, onto this page. And I was really nervous about how much I'd expressed and how much I'd given away, including talking about knickers and boyfriends. That was the worst thing. Like, my mum is actually going to find out about some boyfriends. Not that many. And a friend of mine, an old mentor actually, used to work in television, and I said to him, I can't believe, why have I done this? I can't believe I've said so much. And he said, if you hadn't written what you've written, if you just told a story of a girl who'd moved to London, had quite a nice time and managed to get to where you have in telly, how would you feel right now? And I said, I think, what a waste of time. So, yeah, I had a lot to say, and I am really grateful that 20 years into a career in telly, I was given an opportunity to say something. Yeah, and the conversations it sparked, and the people who've been in touch with me to say that it's sparking conversations.
I think that's such a good lead into my first question.
Excellent.
You use a phrase in the introduction that I found really fascinating, I'm whatever you think I am. Can we kind of explore the intersection of the identities that you are? I thought that this was really interesting.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, the book is all about identity, isn't it? Exploring, oh goodness me, being a woman, being brown in a white world, being perceived as being quite white in a brown world, being northern, being a northerner in the South, being an Asian woman I mean, so many different spaces where I have just never fit in, and it's the experience of so many of us. And, you know, this was the first time I've ever really spent time to sit and think about it. I did say in the beginning of the book, I probably should have just gone down the pub and had a chat with a mate, or maybe see a therapist, but I decided to write a book instead. To explore how we fit in and how we discover who we are and make ourselves fit into spaces or not fit in, I suppose.
And I think that's what you explore so beautifully with the word belonging.
Yes.
You know, so like when you use the word belong, and I saw that you kind of belong to many places. I know Yorkshire is Yorkshire.
Oh, Yorkshire's in my heart. Cut me and I bleed. How do you know if someone's from Yorkshire? They'll tell you within the first 5 minutes. There you go. Yes, I mean, and it's really interesting because when I express my love and I am so of that land, and yes, I'm Punjabi. I love being Punjabi. Punjabi is my culture. It's my tribe. The first time I went to India, I was 2. I locked my knees and refused to squat on the toilet, so my family had to have an English toilet put in for the next time these Britishers visited. But the minute I land in India, and I'm sure those of you who know the country know this feeling, if you know it and you love India, the minute the plane doors open and that air hits you in the face, and it's a warmth and the smell, and all of a sudden there's I don't know, and especially being Indian, from Britain, when you land there, you feel a wholeness in a way you don't feel here. So of course I have a deep connection to India, but Yorkshire is where my heart is, and that landscape and that culture. Very, very, I mean, I am Yorkshire sense of humour, the accent. And it comes from being, like, my mum is from India and my dad was 4 when he came to the UK. So he is a Yorkshireman. He looks quite Greek looking, my dad. And so when my mum was first married to him, the little old aunties would come up to her and say, "Did you marry a Gora? Did you marry?" And my mum would go, yeah, I did. He is pretty much a Gora. He's English. He's completely English. So there's a complete split between my parents. My dad's a real Yorkshireman, and my mum is Indian, forever Indian. It took us years for her to she wouldn't give up her Indian passport for years. And we were so sick of having to get visas to go everywhere, and my mum had to go in one queue. And we're going to have to start getting visas. We'll all have to start getting visas soon anyway. But so what was I rabbiting on about? We're talking about Yorkshire. Belonging, yeah. So I think you can belong to more than one space. And I think I spent my childhood feeling that I had to find my place, my one space. Like, who am I? Like, how do I fit in to become the thing I need to be? And then you realize, actually, it doesn't matter. You can be a multitude of identities and you can belong to so many different spaces. And actually, that is an incredible place to be, where you can move between worlds effortlessly, where, actually, it's fine. Okay, maybe I have been othered in spaces growing up and it's all been very difficult, but now I find myself in a place where, I love it. I love being in spaces and coming with extra layers.
One of the things that I really love about this book is absolutely, like, it feels like I'm hearing a friend tell her story in a pub. Like, it really is. I'm like sitting in there with you, having a pint,
Yes.
and like listening to your story. And I think that's so beautiful, the way that you've done that with this book, because that's the thing that my cousins and I really bonded over, with the right sort of girl.
Yeah, that's really nice for you to say, Nikita, because obviously you're an amazing writer. So, and so for you, I loved writing as a kid, but it's my voice. It is my voice. It came through lockdown, which I think, like a lot of people, I wrote in lockdown, and I loved the process of it. I didn't know how I would take to it, but I absolutely adored every minute of it. I loved having another world to step into, and I loved being able to be creative and have a creative outlet when so much of my life and my job is stepping in and kind of taking other people's ideas and putting my spin on them. But this was all me, and being able to tell my story, an authentic story, a story that I want to tell.
And that's, I think, what's really special about that is that you didn't hold back. And one of the things that when I was speaking to my friend about The Right Sort of Girl was, it's the fact that there's so many conversations around brownness and about South Asianness where shame is used to control us. And this book looks at shame like unflinchingly. It holds that mirror up to it, And I thought that was really important.
Yeah, and I don't know how many other places that this conversation has been sparked. When I sat down to write it, and maybe it was because it was so still, we were in lockdown, and I was just so in my head, I'd really gone somewhere. And as soon as I decided that I was going to write this to my 16-year-old self, right, as soon as I'd made that decision, that I'm talking to that girl in Bradford who knows everything because she's living it, I can't bullshit her, so I can't sugarcoat this. I need to tell her the real deal. And in so doing, and I knew who I was writing this book for. It was for all of those women and men who've never heard their story. And the migrant experience, the South Asian migrant experience in this country, particularly because we are a working class community, is one of, it's complex. There's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of heartache, there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of joy and there's a lot of hilarity, but there's a lot of darkness, and particularly for the women. And it's just never been spoken about. And I feel like I've just spent my life carrying this with me. And I've just had to deal with everything, do what South Asian women do, which is go out there and have to be brilliant, because we are not allowed to fail. Men are our brothers and our uncles and our fathers or whatever, and our secret boyfriends are all allowed to fail. Yeah. But we're not. right? So we have all this pressure on us to just go and do, but at the same time, we're carrying a lot. Not just our own experience, but we're carrying the experiences of our mothers and our grandmothers. And so I really wanted to talk about that, just to have a moment where, like you say, we smash a few taboos so that at least we can start having a conversation. And actually, the reaction has been incredible. I've had a few people, someone came up to me in floods of tears, just saying thank you, finally, I feel like someone's said something that has understood my life, which, there's been some powerful moments.
That's one of the most special things I think someone can say to a writer is that I feel like you wrote my life.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I think so many of us connected to this book because it does feel like you wrote our life.
Yeah.
But this, you touched on this a few minutes ago, generational trauma and the trauma that we know our mothers are carrying and that trauma that comes out in the form of shame or control or pain that they then pass down to us.
Yeah.
And you talk about cycle busting in this book, right? You talk about busting those cycles of trauma. And I think that's an incredibly powerful topic to talk more about.
Yeah, I mean, we're only just really, there's lots of conversations about this happening now, and we're only really starting to understand what it is and that it is a thing, intergenerational trauma and partition is very much part of, as a Punjabi, my history. And some of you may have seen that my Who Do You Think You Are that I made, which was the sort of starting point of all of this. So I was lucky enough to make a Who Do You Think You Are, which traced my family's history, my Nana Ji, who was in the British Indian Army, and I discovered that he was married and he had 2 children and that his entire family died during partition. I mean, it's devastating. But here's the thing, nobody in my family had ever spoken about it. And when that program went out, and then I subsequently made another program about partition as a sort of follow-on for the 70th anniversary, the reaction was huge because so many, huge in Britain because we are a nation that loves history. We love our positive colonial history. But when this happened, people were like, how do we not know about partition? How has this not been spoken about? And then South Asian people were coming up to me to say, for the first time, we are talking to our granny about what happened. We turned around and went, did this happen to you? Do you want to talk about it? So conversations were sparked. But I think it takes a couple of generations. I think they've passed on the pain and we now have the resources to feel it and try and do something with it. Yeah. Possibly, I don't know.
I think this is really...
What do you think?
I think you're really onto something here because I feel like my grandmother, just like your grandmother that you speak about in the book, they're very like, they have that very keep calm and carry on sort of thing, right? Like, okay, these terrible things happened. We're not going to let those things like affect us. But at the same time, it does affect them. It's just that they put on that like strong, firm exterior and they just carry on. My grandmother said to me that when I asked her about partition, she's like, why are you trying to recall ghosts? Why are you trying to bring ghosts back? There's no need to talk about them. Otherwise you'll just become a haunted thing.
Yeah. And I've seen it in people's eyes when I was so lucky that I managed to get to Pakistan for the second bit, the partition series. And I went to the village where my grandfather used to live and I met somebody who knew him, and this old statuesque Pakistani guy in Punjab talking to me in Punjabi, and he couldn't really express anything about what happened, why it happened, but he got tears in his eyes when he started to think about his friends, and he said, you will never understand what it means to lose, it's making me emotional, what it means to lose friends. Yeah, it's really full on. And, that, and to see, and, whenever you see a man of that generation get tears in their eyes, it's impactful. So, yeah, I had to talk about, and, so it's my memoir, but I couldn't tell my story without talking about the past. So I had to talk about what I discovered about my family history, because it gets passed down. So my paternal grandparents, they left after partition, came here to make something of themselves, and that trauma is still in them. And then the anger that they carry, that they then pass on to their children. Tough life. But then I say in the book that, they moved to working class Bradford in the 50s, where actually they fit in really well because everyone in Bradford was working class. And you've got these amazing photographs of, I'm sure you've seen them, of like these back-to-back houses and these cobbled streets. But at the time in Bradford, you would have the odd Asian family dotted around and white working class families, and the kids would play out on the street and they'd play cricket in the back alleys. And I say in the book, they knew each other because culturally they're the same. The men work hard, the women work harder, and you bring your kids up as best you can, and they just grafted somehow. And there's a lot of comedy in that as well.
Yeah. I was just remembering the anecdote about you and your aunts when you went shopping.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing about the book is it's about race, obviously, but it's also about class. And because, we're a hard-working community who within 2 generations, have done all right. But they came here with nothing. And so my mum and dad had a factory, and they put me into this little posh girls' school, and then at the weekends I'd go and see my grandparents and my dad's sisters who were still teenagers living at home, and we'd go to Morrison's. We'd walk to Morrison's, do all the shopping, but obviously it wasn't far enough away to take the car, but it was too far to carry the shopping home, so we'd just nick a shopping trolley and bring it home. So I'm probably the reason that the pound coins have been put into shopping trolleys. Sorry about that. And then, but very resourcefully, the local kids would then use the shopping trolley as a go-kart. So everyone's happy.
It's true, but I did not have a pound coin yesterday, so I know who to blame.
Who has pound coins now, though? Nobody's got cash. I was in the gym and I was like, anyway, no pound coins.
I actually have to refer to this now. I haven't had to refer to it even once. I actually love how candidly you spoke about colorism, specifically, that there's an entire section of it. And colorism is something that I was actually just talking about it yesterday. Fair and Lovely, and how, the skin lightening industry in India makes billions.
Yes, this hideous, absolutely hideous. It really needs to be spoken about. We all know it exists. And again, it is, of course, it's for boys and girls, but women, in every situation, it's really used to put us in a place, and it's so insidious and for us to suffer. And I've seen it growing up. I've seen it my whole life. I've been made to feel it. We went again, when I went to India at 2, I remember Mum was constantly yanking me to sit indoors. But all I wanted to do was sit and play in the mud, in the glorious sunshine. And always you just hear mums and aunts saying, don't put your back towards the sun, and don't get a tan, or go to weddings, and you hear these terrible comments about skin color. And someone needs to talk about it, so bring it to an end. But yeah, the fact that people are making billions and Bollywood actors are advertising these products. I mean, it's terrible because they're perpetuating this hideous, hideous system. But it's also terrible because the products don't actually do what they say they do. So you're selling a lie. The whole thing is just a shocker.
It's a scam.
It's a scam. We hate scams. Bring down the scammers.
It's interesting that you spoke about this, because I was going to bring up the Illuminati anyway.
Yes. Yeah, so my phrase for the collective aunties, the Illuminati, MI5, KGB, and the Illuminati, they know everything. It's their business to know your business.
It's true. It's the thing that I used to freak out about most when I was a kid, is that if I do something wrong, someone's mother will have seen me somehow.
Yeah.
And then they will tell their friend, who'll tell their friend, who'll somehow tell my mother.
Yeah.
What kind of network is that?
Yeah, amazing. I mean, they should have done track and trace, really. They're incredible. But the thing is, it's not even I don't know about you, but I was told that they will find out, all these people. It was like this form of control that if you put a foot out of line or if you do something wrong, then other people will know. And it's all linked to the fact that if other people find out what you've been up to, it will bring shame on your family. Or more than that, it will bring shame on your mother. So you're carrying this, you don't want to step out of line because you don't want to shame yourself, but you're carrying your family's shame as well. And so I say in the book, it's like you're constantly balancing this glass box on your head. You know, it's like on a tightrope the whole time, worrying that one false move and you've basically destroyed everything. So much pressure. Oh, I hate it.
Yeah, and we just grow up with that.
Grow up with it.
God forbid, and it's you touch on this in the book as well, but like, it doesn't even have to be your fault.
No.
Like something goes wrong somewhere else and somehow you have been dragged into it against your will. Somehow it becomes your fault and everyone blames you for it. It's just like, oh, some boy looked at you. Well, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You must have done something for him to look at you.
Yeah, I mean the patriarchy. They've got a lot to answer for, but also they've done a real number on us, Nikita. As Punjabi women, we have been really done over, big time, by the patriarchy and by the upholders of the patriarchy, which is sadly women who do it for complex reasons. And that, so this again, it's trying to dismantle all of that. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
That's what's so powerful about this book, is that it's starting so many conversations. And if you hadn't written it the way that you've written it, and which takes us back to the beginning.
And the other reason I really wanted to talk about it from my own experience, because I have exposed a lot, right? Here I am, somebody who's never really talked about who I am. Now I'm like, okay, sod it. I'm just going to expose everything and talk about my upbringing, my family, tell you where I come from. And I don't care. I don't feel shame at all. I'm really, why should I? There were times when people, you're even made to feel shame about that, aren't you, within our communities? That you might come from we're all from a field somewhere if you go back in our histories. I have no shame about any of that. I literally haven't got time for more shame. But I recognize that after 20 years of working in an industry where I've gone somewhere no other Asian woman has gone before. I'm literally in a field on Sunday night on BBC One, and I haven't imploded. It's amazing. All right, woo! Yes for wellies. Oh yeah, I used to turn up in box fresh white trainers, and I had got an email from the boss saying, Wellington boots, Anita, is what you're meant to be wearing, so I had to go and buy myself a pair of wellies. But anyway, that's another story. I felt that, I think sometimes when you achieve a level of success, people can presume that you might be from a place of privilege. So I wanted to share that I don't come from a place of privilege, and to say to people, I'm you, basically. I get it. I have lived it and breathed it, and I think that it's important to hear that, isn't it?
It really is. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about the book, is that even though, people kind of look at you and think, oh, you're really successful, you must have had it really easy, which sometimes I get, and I get really annoyed about it, because I'm just like, I've only been here for 10 years and it's been really hard, guys.
Yeah.
But you do this so beautifully in the book, where you manage to tell us your history. My question is, it's been a year since the book's been out, almost a year. How does it feel after a year of people knowing that vulnerability, that truth, that history that you want, that you're talking about now?
I'll talk loud over the... quiet. It feels, actually, it's really interesting to have a year to process it. Feels like a release. It feels like such a relief to have finally said these things. And it feels like I think it's been a 5-year process to get to this point, starting with Who Do You Think You Are, where literally you see it on screen. I have a moment where I recognize that I am the first woman in my line of women forever, unless there was some, I hope, some renegade a couple of generations back. I'm sure there were. There must have been. There must be some kind of rebel gene in the family. To actually have a say and have a choice and have a platform to say something. So yeah, now I feel like, okay, now things are going to get interesting because I feel different. I feel more confident. I feel like more myself, you know. And I love meeting women who come up to me to say, read your book, let's talk about this, and thank you, and yes, and or just even a wave across the street. It's like, woo, all right.
It's sisterhood, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what you brought out so powerfully in the book is sisterhood
Yeah.
across generations as well.
Yeah, because the patriarchy doesn't want us to do this, does it? It does not want us to see what it's done to us or discuss it or talk about it or get in rooms, which women have been doing forever, by the way, get in rooms to discuss things. But yeah, no, it feels good. And it's so good. And I'm seeing it in small ways. On Sunday when I was hosting the Jubilee, I wore a sari.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah. It felt right. It felt like, yeah, come on. And I write in the book, actually, I talk about, and I remember going to the ice cream van on a Sunday. We'd come back from the Gurdwara, and I was always in a suit, in a salwar kameez on a Sunday. And the ice cream van pulled up, but the timing was off, because normally I'm in the house, upstairs, changed, and out to play. But this day, I was still wearing my suit, but the ice cream van had rocked up. So what do? My mum and dad were like, just go, go and get an ice cream. So off I trotted with my quid. And the kids on my street looked me up and down and said, we didn't know you were one of those.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I was completely humiliated and complex feelings of shame. And, you know what I'm talking about if you... And so, okay, I will wear those clothes in an environment where it's accepted, but perception, I don't want that perception, whatever that is, because we were told that assimilation was what it was all about. And then you realize that assimilation is nonsense, because you can't assimilate, because no one's going to ever accept me that I'm one of them. I'm always going to look like this. And so, and it's nonsense. So, yeah. I thought, and I've just always had feelings around wearing Indian outfits in sort of environments that are, apart from weddings, I'll always wear one at a wedding. So it felt like a really powerful moment to wear it for the Queen's Jubilee. Yeah.
I thought it was really powerful because I read the book, so I knew. I was watching you, and I was like, you were giving this glam, old Bollywood style.
Thanks, babe.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Just if you need to go and see clips of her because she looked amazing. But honestly speaking, I think there's so many powerful moments in this book. One of them happens to be the one that you just spoke about, and it is a shame around being who we actually are. I mean, we don't feel comfortable being who we actually are in spaces. We're constantly editing ourselves.
Constantly, and it's so mad to think about, right? Because we are editing ourselves because we recognize that we are brown in a white world growing up here. And also, we are editing ourselves because we're being told to edit ourselves. Because within our homes, I don't know about you, but it's you behave like this. As a daughter, you do this. So my mum and dad are really progressive, they're super cool, but also my extended family is quite traditional. My dad doesn't know where the kitchen is. I don't think my mum will, he's absolutely great. I mean, to be fair, he does the ironing and the cleaning and all the rest of it, but my mum will pick his plate up and take it into the kitchen, right? He doesn't have to, he sits and food will be put in front of him. And, it was just... And, this is how it's sold to us in my family that, well, these are the amazing, powerful women we are bringing up in our home. Our daughters can be at the top of their game in their professions, but also they can make chapatis and rotis for 50 people. I'm like, who gives a shit whether I can make a round chapati? Seriously. It is an amazing life skill, and I'm very grateful that my mother instilled it in me, because I love eating Indian food, and I love that I can cook. However, please... And so the pressure that we feel to behave in certain ways and and dial ourselves down. And I don't know about you, but I do this a lot. And again, it's a learning process to dismantle these things. Make sure that everyone else is all right. Like, not wanting to upset, like, is everyone else okay? And then you take it into a workspace. And that's really complex then, because you never really bring your full self. And so when you're going for jobs, you're bloody good. You're probably better than all the other candidates, because you've worked twice, if not 3 times as hard to get there in the first place, and overcome all the obstacles, and not have all the privilege to be there. And still, you know that you are not bringing your whole self, because somewhere in your brain, you are, I don't know, dialing it down. You're not in a space where you can bring the power of you. It's so complicated, isn't it? And it's like, it takes a lot of unpacking.
So did you, I'm just going off this, because did you ever feel imposter syndrome then, in any way? Because it must be really hard to be in a room where you're constantly being made to feel smaller, even though you're more talented than probably everyone in the room.
Imposter syndrome, I've always been quite confident, I would say, right? So I'll kind of rock up, and even at school, and like to take part in things. Imposter syndrome, it's an interesting one. Yeah, I guess we all do. I mean, Woman's Hour is a big gig. That is a big one. And that stepping into that space was like, okay, this is serious now. When I got that job, my dad was like, you've got the gig. That is the gig. That's the one. But, Radio 4, that is, of course, I've done lots of other shows, but that felt like, okay, this is a space that comes with, it just felt like a bit of a burden. I love it. And
Can I just say you smashed it?
No, it's great. And
You
you've been on
smashed
it, and Nikita's been on it. We're getting everyone on.
But she smashed it. She smashed Woman's Hour. It's amazing.
It's still, but yeah, I guess, imposter syndrome is something that you kind of deal with. I don't want to have to deal with it. It's just another thing, isn't it? I think we've worked hard to get to a place where, but also, doing live TV is just terrifying. It's just terrifying. So it's not so much imposter syndrome as just the fear of anything could come out of my mouth and everyone will hear it. And often it does.
And look, you're here. So clearly we want to hear.
I know, at the Jedburgh Literary Festival. Can we just have a moment, Nikita?
In the British Library. This is so cool.
Yeah.
I do think one of the things that really moved me specifically as a queer South Asian girl, and that is a really complex series of identities to be, is that you spoke so openly about homophobia and queerphobia in the South Asian community. That's a conversation that I wrote a book called The Girl and the Goddess, and it has a lead character who is bisexual, and she's South Asian. And her life is complicated because she's growing up in India. She's sort of based off me. The fact that you spoke so openly about homophobia was really moving to me. I really felt like someone saw it, because a lot of it is the gaslighting of yourself going, no one can even see what we're going through. It's just a complete erasure of the homophobia, which is so painful to endure, because as it is, you're dealing with so much, and then on top of that, you can't. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I had to expose. I really went for it, I thought, if I'm going to talk about this, so I'm talking about the experience of being Asian in a white world, but I also had to talk about what it means to be a brown woman growing up within our own community, because before we've even stepped out, the minute we are born in this world, unless you're lucky, I guess things are changing now, there's oh dear. My granny said, when my dad, so legend has it, Dad bought a crate of champagne when I was born. I would say it may well have been Carver, but he says it was champagne. And my granny said, we don't celebrate girls. Aww. Yeah, well, we know. But it's all right. It's like, come on, Gran, I came through. Yeah. She knows. She knows Gill did good. Like, where are your sons now? And isn't that the truth? They put the sons on the pedestal, and then who is it that... It's the girls that come through. It's like, where are your sons? Yeah. Where are they? Oh, nowhere, because you've turned them into little princes, and you know? So, yeah, if they should realize that from day one. But so I had to talk about it. I had to expose our own prejudice and how much we, as a society, are judgmental, you know, and non-accepting of what our own children, our own kids are going through, especially in terms of just wanting to find their own identities. You know, the caste system still exists in this country. Forgotten this here. No, I know it's like you brought that bullshit with you 50 years ago and still hold on to it. And it's worse. You know, I feel like sometimes like we in the diaspora in Britain is living a culture that in many ways doesn't even exist in India anymore. Certainly not in the cities.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so I had to talk about it.
And you did it really powerfully. And I know there's lots of other queer girls who read the book who really felt seen just that you mentioned it. It's just really that being able to see yourself in the pages of a book is the most powerful experience. And for you to do that, for so many of us, like to have written this book, thank you for doing that.
Oh, thanks, Nikita. Yeah, my pleasure. But yeah, it had to be talked about. And you know, they're just casteism, colorism, the pressure of community, just the various levels of nonsense, and just relationships, having to have secret relationships, and the pressure to be married. I mean, that's the running theme throughout the whole book. Like, why are we so obsessed with marriage? Like, what is it? Like, we literally, I think that's the thing, the minute a girl is born, the panic button hits. It's like, one day she will be a sexualized being. It's like, what we're going to do with a woman? What can we do? We just panic. Like, the idea that a woman can choose to live her own life and do what she wants to do. I mean, it didn't matter how successful I was. I was living in London. I was in my early 30s. You know, bought a flat, was doing my thing, I was working on TV. Every conversation with my mum was, but you're lonely. I'm like, no, really, I'm not. Really, I'm literally, Mum, having the time of my life. Single, rocking it, like partying, having a great time. But you got to be married, you know. But yeah, so yeah, I don't get it. I
think, like, what you've said is incredibly powerful, because it is, at the end of the day, marriage seems to be this thing that which is used as a control.
Yes.
But you smashed like pretty much every taboo out there, right? By simply with everything that you managed to do. I know that this is the last few minutes that I'm going to be able to speak to you before I open it up to the audience. So I'm just going to say, first of all, thank you for writing this book. But secondly, the representation in these pages, this is the first time I've seen like brown women being represented this honestly in every single way. Like, you know how they say warts and all? Yeah.
Thank you, Nikita. Yeah, it was a celebration of brown women of my generation, but also our mothers and our grandmothers. I had to honor those women who came to this country who were completely invisible. No one cares about that generation, certainly no one in wider society, but even within the homes. And I had to see, and you know what, I grew up not wanting to be that. Because I saw, when I was a kid, it's like, the last thing I want is to be what I am seeing around me in terms of female role models, that they are put upon, they do everything that they're told to, they don't have a voice. I was like, that is the last thing I want, that is not me. And then I see that actually, my God, those women are goddesses. Yes. They are absolute phenomenal powerhouses, and we need to see them and see how much they had to endure to make sure that you and I can sit here today to do this, right? So, yeah.
What a powerful celebration it is of sisterhood and family and everything. So thank you so much,
Thank you,
Anita.
Nikita.
Thank you. I'm going to open.
Thank you.
Smash it. I'm going to open the floor to questions. Yeah.
Thank you, yes. Yay. Thank you for coming. It's nice to see people.
Hello. Oh, thank you so much for speaking. It's just such a wonderful event to see both of you, such talented women. And I was wondering, because with The Right Sort of Girl, there were so many different identities explored. And I was wondering, how do you reconcile all those identities without code switching all the time?
Without code switching, yeah. No, I've done a lot of that, as we all have. You kind of have to, don't you? Sort of dial aspects of yourself down. But I guess now I'm in a place where where I feel like I can be my whole self in most places. I think we all still do it slightly. You know, I'm not going to go up to, I mean, maybe one day I'll speak a bit of Punjabi on Woman's Hour, I don't know, but probably, you know, that level of being my whole self where it's required. I think also now there's a generation of us who have come of age, right? You know, we kind of, our grandparents came here, people, you know, in the 50s, and parents, various waves. But now there's a generation of us who were born here, who have come of age and who are questioning everything and writing about it and speaking about it. So you have amazing people out there doing great work. And they are helping all of us to be able to accept our identities and be whole, I think. I think like that is really important, cultural shift. Seeing more of us. I don't know if anyone saw Ms. Marvel the other day. It's bloody amazing, absolutely brilliant. You know, things like that, just all of it. Or We Are Lady Parts on Channel 4, where we see us, yeah. We see ourselves, and that all helps. Hopefully the younger generation, and I think they are inspiring because they're so confident in who they are and unapologetic in their identity. I'm thinking actually about the Daytimers. I don't know if you know about them. They're a DJ collective. So, you know, 20 years ago, Daytimers were what we had to do secretly, right? He's like, that was the whole point, because we couldn't, and so that was our little, or even kind of those of us who were out clubbing and listening to great music and going to clubs like Anoka or whatever, it was still separate. These guys, the Daytimers now, fast forward 20 years, they're in Fabric. There's this amazing video of Boiler Room where you've got all these Sardars, young 20-year-olds, Sikh boys in a club, and they're wearing shawls and, you know, they're like rocking it. I'm like, my God, yes. This is brilliant. So, yeah, it's time.
B. Did you catch the writing bug? Are you still writing?
Oh, B. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think for me, as well as being able to tell my story, that was like the gift. And I had been craving a creative outlet for a little while. I just felt like, I love my job, but what about, how can I express something more? Yeah, I do. I need to find out I need time and discipline. They're the two things, but Nikita's going to coach me. And this is the enemy of writing, this thing. I need to lock that away, put it in a safe. But yeah, watch this space.
I wrote a whole book on the notes app of my phone, so I can't get rid of it.
I'm always on it's Instagram.
Yeah, it's very distracting. Social media is so distracting.
It really is. Hello.
Hi Anita, it's Hetal. I'm also Indian and born in London. And I guess I just had a question. You mentioned in your workplace that you take those kind of narratives and scripts in your family into their profession. And you mentioned about kind of dialing yourself down. And I wondered about that and what advice you might give to somebody like me who's trained as a psychotherapist, working in a very white middle class field, if you like, and particularly other people's responses to you, particularly other women I found who are younger, who are actually of colour, who still kind of would put you down almost for me, if I do try and be my honest self. So I'm constantly dimming myself down to please other people.
I know. Why we do it. It's really complicated, isn't it? And it's because of everything that I've just said, because it's been instilled in us. Like, we've just had a number done on us. And so when we enter these spaces, it's such a big, big question. I would say, make sure that you have your own little place where you can go to express that, right? You need a safe space where you can go and talk to women who are of your age, or just that can hold you and that you can express these things to, and who will empower you in a safe space. This is like, but also on some level, fuck it, just be you.
Yeah.
Just honestly, just be you.
Yes.
Sorry to swear, I'm not on the BBC, so I think it's time. Like, we've got two choices. Either we carry on going as we are, and I'm sort of done. I'm sort of done with having to do all that. I'm really tired of dialing myself down. I'm tired of apologizing. I'm tired of thinking about other people first. I think it's time we just stepped out. Yeah, let's not do what our mothers were made to do.
So it's fascinating to hear about your experiences. My life was quite different. I came to this country when I was 23 years old in the 70s. And although it was quite hostile and very different from what you see now, and we've come a long way, I have to say, but I'm in my 70s now, Anita. I'm still grappling with the question of identity, belonging, acceptance. I mean, will it ever change? But my question to you, I mean, I could be here sitting with you talking for hours because my head is exploding with everything that I want to talk to you about. But my question to you is, do you think that although we've come a long way and we are articulating our experiences, and there hasn't been much documentation of what we have experienced, a sense of marginalization for people like me who spoke English from the day I came to this country, because I graduated and I had a master's degree in English, but that didn't change anything, did it? Because it's like you're the brown girl in the ring, and even though, you know, I think what used to mark me out was that I had my Indian sensibility, which, you know, you can live away from India, but you can't get India away from you, can you? But anyway, just coming back to the question, you know, even today, do you think it is possible for young people of your generation and the generation that's coming up to succeed in this world without having that veneer of westernization? Is it possible?
Wow. First of all, I've got a question for you. How do you look so good at 70? You look amazing. Like, so...
Oh,
And you know,
I sit here
and
thinking I'm probably of your mother's generation.
Yeah, yeah.
I was brought up
You
in
look-
Delhi. Some of the things that you are talking about, those experiences are not like my experiences.
No, I know.
Because
Yeah.
Delhi was
And
very
of cour-
cosmopolitan,
Yeah.
and I come from a liberal family.
Yeah. Actually, my mum...
all those pressures were there in the background. Now that you're articulating them, you know, I can see that all those subtle pressures were there
Yeah.
all along.
Of course.
Simply I didn't recognize them.
And my mum's the same, actually. I've had the most amazing thing happen writing this book is my relationship with my mother and how the conversations I've had to have with my mum when I said, Mum, I'm going to write a book. You might feature. And actually, that's an interesting thing you talk about, the class thing, because my mum came from a middle-class family. And, you know, it breaks my heart that so, and I see it, I'm sure you all know, the women that are brought from India to have arranged marriages with boys here. And you know why my mum was brought to marry my dad? Because at 19, he was going off the rails. So my grandparents' decision was to marry him to a nice Indian girl because she will sort him out, right? So then he's her problem. But she came from a middle-class family, had lived this lovely life in an army family in India, and all of a sudden it's like, welcome to Bradford. And you know, working class Punjabi family in Bradford, for my mum, like the way these women, you have had to adapt when you come to this country, how you've had to adapt into not only your in-laws' lives, but then in a foreign country, a country that doesn't recognize your education, that doesn't care that you might have a master's degree, all of that. What your question was, can you assimilate, can you fit in without having to lose your culture? Yeah, I mean, it would be tragic. I feel like I'm hopeful that, I mean, I like to think that we have a balance. I think there is a generation coming up that is more that is more rooted in their identity than those of us before. I think we felt that we had to get rid of our culture a bit to fit in. I think it's changing.
I agree.
I think we've got time for a couple more questions, if we may. Anita, if that would be
I'm
all
happy.
right.
Yeah. It's raining out there, so is it? Oh, maybe not.
Hi, Anita.
Hello.
It was great to see you on the BBC for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. My question to you is, was it a big decision to wear a sari, or was it something that you had decided a long time ago?
No, not a long time ago. I actually, the week before, I'll tell you the honest truth story. I have this amazing guy who helps me style, my stylist. He's called Krishan. So Indian, gay, Krishan Parmar, he's amazing. And he messaged me, and I was like, oh, what shall I wear, what shall I wear? And he just went, how about a sari? And it was like a bing moment. It was like, yeah. This is it. This is it. This is the perfect opportunity because, yes, okay, we'll celebrate this institution and the Queen, but also we will go in our proud identity. And it wasn't, and when I make these decisions, like writing the book or making the documentary of partition or wearing a sari, I do it knowing why I'm doing it. And I'm doing it for all of you sitting at home. I wanted that moment where you're at home and you're going, Mom, come and see, there's a woman in a sari on the telly interviewing Naomi Campbell. Yeah, it was good. Thank you. My mum was disappointed I didn't wear anything a bit blingier, though. She was like, where's some colour? I was like, no, white.
You were so glamorous, though. And you took something back for little Anita, I feel.
I definitely feel like I took something back.
Yeah.
And I've never felt like, as I'm sure you're aware, those of you who wear saris will know, there is no garment that can make you feel more elegant, more ladylike, more sophisticated, more glamorous. And it just, the way your shoulders go back, the way you hold yourself, you can't help but feel, it's magic. And again, you know, on another level, it is absolutely doing something on another level where it's connecting you to a heritage that has been in you for, you know, forever. So
100,000 times, yes.
next time I'll wear one with a flat cap.
Okay, our last question, please.
I've got a question and some feedback. You talked about intergenerational trauma. Last year, when I read the book, there was a lot of that coming out, and it wasn't a pleasant place to be in. But there is also intergenerational healing as well. And I think if you do the work, you do get to a place of healing. And I think these conversations have been pivotal for me to get to that place. I just wanted to ask you, firstly, has it been difficult for you to remain grounded? Because I get a sense that you're carrying the wishes and stories of not just your stories, your friends, but all of us. And secondly, did you receive any backlash from some of the themes, and who were they predominantly from, and how did you deal with them?
I actually thought I'd get more backlash, but actually I just think I'm jammy. I say in the book, don't I? I'm jammy. So I was fully prepared for the backlash, right? Because I've said some stuff. And actually I was like armed and ready for the backlash. Like, come on, bring it on. I wanted someone to have a go. Because I'm like, what? Are you going to deny that this stuff happens? Is somebody going to now try and... But nobody... I don't think those people have even read the book, to be fair. So I don't think they read. So I've been lucky in that sense. And in terms of grounding, that's such a nice question to ask me, so thank you for that. Very thoughtful. I am really lucky. I've got amazing friends. I've got a really good network of very, very close friends, and we've kind of grown up together in London, and we hold each other quite in a nice space. But actually, it is a place of healing as well, because the conversations I've had with my mother have been quite remarkable. And I love that idea, intergenerational healing. That's really important. Oh, I like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of your wonderful questions. And I just want to say thank you to Anita for having this wonderful conversation.
I want to thank you. Next time I'll interview you. Yeah.
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank you, everybody.
Anita.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.